First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, grand predecessor and predecessors, and also the spinning masters and everyone here to have this opportunity to talk about this topic. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's good. All right. How to expound the Tao. I wasn't sure exactly the scope of this topic. Virginia kind of said, okay, maybe how we can talk to people, the uninitiated people who haven't received the Tao, maybe talk to them about the Tao. Although I'm not probably the best person to do that, since I don't know, I haven't had much luck in trying to get people to receive the Tao myself, but anyways, I'll try here. Okay, so but yeah, one thing we have to understand first is there are some basic things that some conditions, basic conditions that need to exist for someone to be willing to receive the Tao. Okay, so I listed up there. But before, okay, so this we have to always keep in mind. Okay, so when we're trying to reintroduce the Tao, talk to people about the Tao, keep that in mind that there are these certain conditions that exist, and if these conditions can't be fulfilled or they don't exist, then maybe it would be difficult, right, to have someone be willing to receive the Tao. So the first is affinity, right? Affinity is like a connection. There's a connection, a past connection with either the Buddhas or the teachings, the Dharma, or the person who's introducing the Tao, right? So the affinity, that connection, whether it's like a friendship or even like being a family member, anything, some kind of things that brings us together. Affinity with the Buddhas. Okay, so people, they have, it's kind of a natural thing. It's just like, it's hard to explain that sometimes you feel like, I have this connection, right, with the Buddha or something like that. So that comes from past lives. Okay, past lives, perhaps it's quite possible that maybe we were one of Buddha's followers at the time, okay, of Buddha, or any of the Buddhas or saints and sages, okay, and so because of that there is that lingering affinity, okay, over many lifetimes, it's still there, or even maybe in one lifetime we've heard the teachings or we've read the teachings, the scriptures. And once we do that, then there is an affinity. We establish that connection. Okay, so that's important. So later on, if we want to, we also want to establish that connection, that affinity with people here, whether or not people are willing to receive the Tao. We establish a good affinity with them. So it's like planting a seed for the future. Okay. So we don't say, oh, okay, this person's not interested, so I just forget about them. Okay, so so yeah, if especially if we're friends, or you don't say, okay, I give up that friendship, right, just for over that. No, you still have to maintain the friendship. We establish a good affinity. So later on, I talk about we have to manifest this Tao. Okay, so once we manifest that Tao, people see that. And that they see that, well, the Tao is good. Okay, so that affinity is very important. And a lot of times when we try to talk to people, we don't really have to say much. We say, oh, you're willing to come to the temple with me? And sure enough, they come. And so we don't have to try to convince them, right? So that's most likely due to affinity of some kind, okay? Also, those who have, okay, so that's affinity. Now, faith is another, you can say another condition. Faith, either having faith in the teachings or, faith in, people say, oh, they have faith in God or faith in Jesus or faith in Buddha. These faith, faith is like, you can say it's like a belief. but it's like a stronger than just a belief. So when we have faith in something, then of course, then we believe it, we follow it, we're more likely to follow it. Okay, so ultimately, though, faith, most people they have faith in something or someone, right? It's external, and ultimately, we need to have faith in our own self, right? You can call that confidence, but that's kind of confidence is kind of a lower level. But true faith is sincerity, okay? That true sincerity. So basically, those who have the faith, if they don't believe, right, especially the teachings, okay, some people, they might believe in God, but they may not necessarily believe in any particular, religious teachings, right? So that is very important too. So, the Buddha or, Jesus, any of these holy people, the saints, they've they tried to talk about the truth, okay? They tried to explain the truth, all right? So, and they talk, about the principles, how we should live our lives through, these guidelines or precepts or commandments, and generally the principles kind of underlying our, human nature. Well, not our human nature, our conscience. Okay, and so if people don't accept that, right, if they don't have that faith in that, in those teachings, in those principles, then again, you have a problem with trying to convince them to accept, right, to receive the Tao. So that's another issue. So but some people, they can have faith in like their religion, and they're very sincere. They practice the religion, but yeah, then the problem is, okay, so faith, there's blind faith. if you kind of accept things, I've learned it in church, I learned it somewhere in school or whatever. Sometimes people accept it blindly. Okay, just say, okay, this is the word of God, and you have to. That's it. So there's no need to explain. Okay, so you just have to accept it. Unfortunately, that if you accept the right teachings, then that may be okay. But ultimately, it's not. It's not good enough. We have to have wisdom. We have to use our wisdom to understand why it's truth. Okay, why it's right. Okay. Otherwise, you have all these false teachings. I mean, that are perverted from the religious teachings. Okay, so you have all these cults that come about, right? So, but people blindly follow them, right? Either maybe they get some benefit out of it or whatever, but that's lacking wisdom. So we have to be careful. But people, okay, so people, who lack the wisdom, maybe then they become blinded, or they just, are, you can say, too, they become like stubborn. Okay, they attach to that particular view, and they have they can't accept anything else. So again, that will preclude those people from seeking another, like receiving the Tao. But basically, anyone who's seeking the truth really needs to have an open mind, okay? Because we cannot say that we know the truth in all its entirety. So maybe, yeah, sure, these teachings, the scriptures, they are good. They are the truth, but it's only part of the truth. It's not the complete truth. So we should definitely be able to seek other things that may also have the truth. All right. So that's another one. And then the third one is those who are willing, of course, obviously, and have to be able to take vows. Okay. So in religions, I don't know, like in Christianity, whether you take any kind of vows in general. Most people don't. I don't think there's any. I mean, some, like if you're going to be a priest or a nun, I think they might take certain vows. And some of these religious orders, they take certain, like a vow of poverty or a vow of silence, even, things like that. Okay. Now, why do we need to take vows? Vows are important because they help us to basically, it gives us strength. Okay, so it's a conviction. All right, so we say, okay, I definitely want to do this, or I want to achieve something, and so it's like a goal. Yeah, you can say it's also like a goal. So say this is what I want to achieve, and so you can say there's a motivation. Okay, there's a kind of a motivational force to kind of push us in that direction. Vows also are needed to help us overcome karma, okay, our karmic forces. Now, people who don't believe in karma, then it's kind of difficult, okay? We have to, we really be able to accept that causality, cause and effect, that there is karma. Once you can accept that, it explains a lot of things. Okay, things kind of makes a lot of sense. Okay, so these vows are also necessary to do that, to overcome our karma. People who are existentialists or nihilists, they basically don't believe in any future consequences, things like that. So it's even Buddha would say, just kind of ignore them. Don't, we can't really, we're not here to try to convert people. Okay, we're not trying to convert people. It's just, so that's why that affinity is important. It's only if and also the willingness. If they are willing, if they have that affinity, then we can transmit the Tao to them. We don't try to force people. If we're forcing people to receive the Tao, that kind of echoes back to like the in religions, right, where the Crusades or whatever, trying to force religion on people. That doesn't work. Okay, so people have to be willing. All right, so
They lost the preciousness of Tao.
I mean, it loses part of it. I mean, part of it really, okay, some people ask, why doesn't God make it obvious that, you have to receive the Tao? It just make it so obvious that people see, oh, yeah, of course. It's actually that the ability to understand that really comes from the self. So unless we can understand, become enlightened, become awakened, then you can say we're not really worthy to become like, ultimately, okay, that path, okay, of receiving the Tao, that's like the first step. But ultimately, it is to want to become fully awakened, truly enlightened, like a Buddha. Okay, so that's the end point of the path of cultivation, starting from receiving the Tao. Okay, so or even religions. Okay, so the practice of religions, they don't maybe say so much. Buddha talks more about it, but in like Christianity, they don't say, oh, you have to become like Jesus, okay, in the end, okay, but that is the end goal, all right? So it's just, how you get there, the process is important too. Basically, it has to develop from within, okay? So we have to be truly awakened. No one can awaken us like that. So that, you can say that enlightenment has to come from within, right? No one, even the Buddha, cannot enlighten us. Buddha can only point us in the right direction and say, you have to put into practice. And we have to practice, okay, to get there, all right? So ultimately, then that's really proving ourselves, that we can prove ourselves, okay? So that's why, if God made it very easy, say, okay, use some kind of miracle to show everyone, say, wow, you have to do this. Then it becomes like it cheapens the thing. It's no longer, and a lot of people, they won't, without fully realizing what it means, then we can't really achieve the end goal. And so we end up, so it's the same thing, in life. If we don't fully realize what this truth is about, right? So, I'm practicing, in my religion. Okay, I'm very faithful. I'm sincere. But if I don't truly get to the root of it, okay, what the root is to change our heart and mind, okay? If we don't get to that, and say, I just follow the rules, follow these commandments in my daily life. Yes, I mean, maybe I don't commit any crimes, I don't commit many sins, but it's not enough, okay? That's just, it ends up as being good karma in the future, but we haven't transcended, okay? So, because we might still fall for temptation, okay? So, and, of course, in the world, there are many temptations. Until we are tested and overcome those temptations, all of them, then we cannot say that we can, transcend this life and death, right? So that's very important. Okay. All right. So when we're talking to people, then we need to know the person's background, understand their background and their situation, right? Sometimes we just use the same pitch, right? We make the same pitch to people, but different people need to hear different things. Like I said earlier, those with affinity, you don't have to say anything pretty much. You just say, hey, just come with me to the temple, and they're fine with that, and they'll receive the Tao. So that's because of their affinity, all right? So we don't need to say anything. But some people, like me, I'm kind of more based on logic and reasoning, and so it has to make sense to me. And so for people like that, then we need to talk about the principles. Okay, we talk about the principles, and so because the principles, they all make sense. Okay, so we have to understand it ourselves, of course. So that's why we come to the temple. We learn so that we can use this knowledge, of course, not in our daily lives as well, but also in talking to people. One of the things also is that we have to make sure that the person is of, generally good moral character, decent person, not, if we know this person is, commits crimes, then probably it's not appropriate. The first step in that case, though, is to try to get them to change their ways. Okay, so obviously there are actually certain occupations that we cannot bring them to receive the Tao. Because, like a butcher, for example. Okay, a butcher, we should not, because they have a lot of created bad karma, okay? Because they're killing all the sentient beings. And so the only way for them to receive the Tao is to change their occupation. Okay, they have to change their occupation. So this applies to those in, like, illicit drugs, drugs like that, or weapons, things like that, okay? So generally, those are bad occupations in terms of they're making, creating a lot of bad karma. All right. So, all right. So once we understand that, okay, they're generally a good person. Of course, we generally give people the benefit of the doubt. They're a good person, but so when we meet people, I mean, if we just meet the person, see them somewhere, or it's hard to tell, right? We only see the surface, okay? So ideally, we get to know the person a little bit more, okay? So usually that's why when we spread the Tao, it's usually among our friends, family, maybe even our colleagues, right? People we know more. Sometimes we do go out and we just might meet someone, but then, there's also that affinity. If there is that affinity, then maybe that's okay too, okay? So it's not like one size fits all, right? Okay, then we can find out whether they have religious beliefs or they're practicing in religion, whether they have certain philosophy of life. Okay, so depending on their beliefs, their philosophy, then you might want to use different ways to talk to them. So obviously if they're a Christian, then you wouldn't use the Quran examples to talk about, right? So you use the Bible. That's just common sense. So now these various scriptures, these teachings of the various religions, we have to understand that they all come from the Tao. Okay, they are all based on the principles of that truth. Okay, that same truth. It's just that how they're presented differently, right? So once we understand, so when we come to the temple and we learn about these things, we learn, oh, how in the Bible it says this, and maybe they have their own interpretation of that, but then we have a slightly different interpretation, which kind of more from a broader view of it. Okay, the bigger view from the truth. Okay, so because a lot of things, they teach them, yeah, it's the truth, but then it's kind of the interpretation might be kind of narrow. Okay, so thou shalt not kill. Okay, people take it pretty narrowly, right? Say, oh, kill what? Humans, right? Not animals, though. They exclude those. So, yeah, we have to understand. So that's kind of, you can say, the danger in these teachings, various teachings from religions, that they take it kind of superficial or at its word, okay, word for word, exactly. And so what we need to do is understand more, use our wisdom, kind of go to our conscience, right? Our conscience can tell us, well, kill, yeah, it's not right to kill, but I shouldn't take any life at all, right? All life, right? Even in the Bible it says, every living creature is creation of God. So what gives me the right to kill anyone? So, unfortunately, some people, they've been kind of given this dogmatic teaching. So it's like, oh, this is the way it is, and whoever is teaching them, just focuses on this thing, and that's how they interpret it. But in Christianity, there are sects that are vegetarian too. So because like the Seventh-day Adventists, right? So it depends. So that's all subject to personal interpretation, if you will. All right. So what, do they have a goal in life, right? People are pursuing all sorts of things in life, usually material things, right? Want a better job, want a better house, big house, all these things. People pursue those. Yeah, that's fine and good, I suppose. But is there something more to it? I mean, like, yeah, we can pursue all these things, but ultimately we'll see that, there's none of it really matters in the end, right? when we're dying, none of that stuff matters, right? So if we believe that we have, a soul, that there is continuance of our life in a different form, that then we should kind of think about, well, this is what's more meaningful, right? It's the continuum, the eternal continuum, as opposed to just one short span of life. Okay, so, but anyways, we understand what their goals are, and then we can talk to them about, well, there's something greater than just the material things, right? And then if they have, understand their condition too, right? Their situation in life. Perhaps a lot of people, they have, some illness, long-term illness, disease, cancer, right? We can sympathize with them and explain, life is suffering. No one can escape suffering. The richest person in the world still gets sick, right? Even though they have the best doctors, perhaps, they're still going to get sick, all right? They still have to eat. They still have to, do all sorts of the things that everyone else does, right? So that's the human condition, okay? So everyone goes through that. So it's not wealth or any material things that can overcome all that, right? So that's another point that we can talk to them about, right? That you can't escape. Yeah. Oh.
I think maybe at this point we can also share with them the story of the three wishes of Alexander the Great.
Oh, well, you want to do that? Okay. I don't know. Well, okay, supposedly Alexander the Great, when he's dying, right, he said three things, right? He says to put his hands outside the coffin to show that when we leave this world, we take nothing with us, right? What was this?
And he also wants his doctor to carry his coffin to show to the world that even the best doctor cannot save his life. So we all have a...
Right.
The reason
Expired.
he put his hand outside the coffin to show everybody. By the time he leaves,
It's empty-handed.
there's nothing he carries with him. Even he has all the clothes, he has everything in the world, gold, power, but he cannot take with him. He couldn't take with him, right? He's
Yeah.
gone, he's gone. He didn't take all those material stuff with him.
Right. Yeah, the only thing we can take with us is our karma and our virtues. Virtues, merits. Okay, those are things that we take.
And also sin.
Well, yeah, karma, sins, yeah.
Good and good and bad.
Yeah, so those are things that we can take. Yeah, so those are things that really matter, if you will. Okay, so yeah, right now my survival is certainly of the utmost importance. But do I want to go through this life after life? Right? We have no guarantee that the next life will be better than this life. Okay, obviously I do all the things, try to make it better, do good deeds. Then yes, you benefit in the next life. But unless our heart and mind is proper, right, in the next life, yeah, okay, so I become a rich person in the next life. But then will I then start committing sins as a result? I mean, if I don't have that good foundation in the heart and mind, then it's possible, again, I said that temptations, right, with greed or, anything else. Right, so those are things that we have to work on. All right, so anyways, yeah, so people have health conditions. A lot of people, because they have a disease or something, they seek help from divine intervention, right? Because maybe the doctors can't do much for them. And that's one motivation for them to, religion, get into religion or receive the Tao. That's okay, I guess, as a first step to get in the door. But ultimately, they have to understand that they may, their condition may not improve as a result of that. Okay, so if they say, "Oh, okay," or we cannot say that, "Oh, you can receive the Tao and your cancer is going to go away." That we can't guarantee that. Okay, so we should not give them that impression that will happen. Okay, because then if it doesn't happen, well, they say, well, this Tao is false. Okay, so we cannot say that. We can only say that through our own cultivation, through our performing of merits, our virtues, that we can, yes, lessen our karmic debts. Maybe it can improve our condition. It really depends. It depends on the karma, how severe it is. Okay, and how much effort we put into cultivating, performing merits, all that. So because we can't see, we don't see, I can see it easily, it's quantifiable, that I just need to do so much to offset this. We can't see that, so we have no idea if it's possible to do that. So we can't guarantee anything, all right? But at least we can tell them that, if we can change our fate, we can change our destiny, all right, through cultivation. And that's pretty much all we can do, all right? Okay. All right, so then we talk about the meaning of life, right? We, basically, so without getting into too many principles, things like that, we just talk about in general, what is the meaning of life? A transmitting master, I don't know, it's probably like almost 20 years ago, gave me some advice, says, just talk to people about the meaning of life. Don't talk about these principles, all these principles. So now this is Buddha's view, how he describes the nature of life, if you will. Okay, so there's three aspects. Anicca, which is impermanence, we can say unpredictability as well. Okay, dukkha, which is generally suffering or any kind of I guess suffering. I mean, suffering is dissatisfaction. Yeah, anatta is I say it's no true self-identity. Okay, so people that we generally associate that with ego. Okay, the ego is not true. Okay, so the ego is this delusion actually of who we are, who we think we are. Right. So these are the three you can say characteristics of life. Now people may not necessarily the first people can accept that, right? They see that, yeah, everything's changing all the time. I have no idea when I'm going to die, no idea what's going to happen next. That people can accept that. Suffering, yes, they see that, but they maybe see half and half. They say, oh, sometimes I'm happy, things are good, but still, that's not eternal, right? It's not all the time. So unless it's 100% good times, then there is suffering. Okay, so they have to accept that. The third one, they may not necessarily accept. Okay, that there's no, you can say no permanent ego or permanent that view of ourselves as this is who I am, this personality. Okay, that may be harder for people to understand that, but really everything is created. Okay, so if basically our self-identities, well, if we can accept, first of all, that we have this continuum over many lifetimes, I can guarantee you that in a previous lifetime, we were a different person. Our personality, our ego is different. Okay, so that just says that's what this says, this anatta, that there is no true self-identity that's permanent. Okay, because it's constantly changing. In each lifetime, it's always different, right? So, but okay, that's presuming that they do accept that. All right. So, okay, so is life, just the way it is, just like this human condition that we see every day, right? But really, life is not, things don't happen randomly, right? Especially we see that the sun rises every day, okay, things happen. Of course, we say, we look at weather, that's constantly changing, but it's not entirely random either. I mean, they all follow principles, okay, the laws of physics, laws of chemistry, all these natural laws that they follow. So, we call them principles. So human beings, as we can kind of go against those principles. That's the thing. Okay, we can do anything we want, pretty much. All right, and so that's why there's an element of I don't know, surprise or that we call that free will. Okay, so we have a choice to do anything we want, even though it goes against the principles or goes against the laws. But it's still not entirely random. Okay, so generally when we talk about life events, things that happen to us, okay, those aren't random. So if we are from the point of view of karma, right, causality, that we are always in the right place at the right time. Okay, so whatever happens to us is because it was meant to happen to us. Right, now people may not like to hear that when something bad happens to them. Right, they accept it when something good happens, but not when something bad happens. But certainly, we have to accept there's both. Okay, so but yeah, life is not random. And so it's follow certain principles. Our conscience is also, if we follow our conscience, then we wouldn't just be doing things randomly. Because the conscience also follows certain rules, like, showing compassion, right? Okay. The other thing about life is that we can change our destiny. So people say, this human condition, this is always, as far back as history shows us, life has been like this. People suffered, all these things happen. But we can change our destiny overall. So, even though, maybe we're poor or we have a disease, we can change that potentially. All right. Important thing is that we have that sincerity, that faith, right? Going back to that faith, and that we put in the effort, all right, to want to change. If we don't want to change, then nothing's going to help us. God can't help us even, all right? So life is, it's not just predetermined in the sense that, if I obviously death, that's we can't escape that, okay, unless we transcend, okay, so we have to become enlightened to do that. All right. Okay, so is there a greater purpose to life then? Yeah, sure. So religion, they try to point us in that direction, but generally they do not go into that much detail. Buddha, because maybe one is that his audience or the people that he was teaching, most of them were well learned, okay, well educated. So he could go into a lot of detail and depth into those principles and talking to them. He was even teaching bodhisattvas, okay, so which are are already pretty enlightened. Okay, so but if like Jesus' case, he only taught for 3 years, and the people we were teaching were generally common people, folks. So he couldn't really talk in profound depth of the principles, right? But in general, the religions teach us, guide us in that direction to be good, right? To not create any more karmic debts, more bad karma. Okay, so that is one of the main points. So if we don't create bad karma, then it sets up the conditions to be better for us in the future, so that we may be more likely to find the truth. Okay, find the Tao. Right? Okay. But the Tao, okay, excuse me, is to realize our true nature. Okay, so finding that truth within us. Okay, the truth is actually inside if we look inside. Okay, we're constantly looking for the truth outside, and we tend to take knowledge as truth. So the scriptures, the words, we take that as the truth, but it's not the truth. It's just pointing us to the truth, guiding us towards that truth. That ultimate truth cannot be revealed, only revealed within ourselves. Okay, so that's the ultimate realization, ultimate awakening, if you will. So to become enlightened, we have to realize that, right? Ultimately, the ultimate goal is Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, which is the ultimate awakening or enlightenment, okay, that Buddha achieved, right? So, but again, to get there, right, it's not just the external practice, but it's the internal realization that we have to get to that point, all right? Okay, so the truth, the way, and the life, right? Jesus did say, I am the truth, the way, and the life. But that is the same as what Buddha, we understand. Buddha says, or in the Tao we say the three treasures, right? The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. That is the same thing, right? The Buddha is the truth, or represents the truth. The Dharma is the way. You can say, it's the way to get there. And the Sangha is the practice, the life. Okay, so it's the same thing. It's just that Jesus didn't really explain that, right? So he just mentioned it, but it wasn't really explained. So people don't understand it. Plus, when he says, I am the way, the truth, the way, and life, he's not referring to him as, we say, oh, it's Jesus, that personality, that person, but it's really that true self, that true nature, okay? All right. So religions generally guide us through the way of living, right? So through the commandments, through teaching us that we should be kind, we should be merciful, and so that is generally what we call precepts that guide us in life. But again, it's kind of missing that internal aspect, that true understanding of our true nature. Okay, and so we have the belief, faith, and sincerity, right? So belief, I mentioned earlier, right? We have faith. We believe something, but that's not sufficient. Some people say, oh, I just need to believe in, place my belief or my faith in someone, or even, in God or in some divine person, that I can be saved. That is insufficient by itself, right? We have to basically find that truth ourselves. So we cannot rely on something external. Anytime we rely on something external, that external thing that we're relying on is not the truth. Okay, so the true reliance is on our own self, our own true nature. All right, so that's where we have that true faith, that sincerity that's inside. Okay, so people certainly when they're practicing religions, they can be very, very sincere, and usually those are people you're not going to sway them from that religion. And that's okay. I mean, in this life, that's what they're doing, and that sets up a foundation for the future life. Okay, so that's fine. But ultimately, we have to find that truth. It's inside. That we have to realize it inside. Okay, it's not external. All right. Okay. So why we need a Tao, right? The Tao can help us to become a better person, right? To get rid of by pointing out our true nature, we are really like. It's inside. It's not outside, and that we can get rid of our bad temper, right? So we realize that, oh, I have that pure nature, that true nature within myself. I need to kind of manifest that, bring that out. It's all been covered up by my desires, my emotions, all these attachments. Okay, so pointing out that we need to get rid of those things, we can, basically clean up, right? Cleanse ourselves of all these defilements, and then, we reveal that Buddha nature within. Okay, so that we already have that diamond, that gem within us. Okay, it's just that it's covered up. So how do you get to it, right? You got to clean it up, and so remove all those external things. We can change our fate and destiny, again, through cultivation, the practice of performing merits and our virtues, that those things can, the merits and the virtues can be used to offset karmic debts. Okay, so there are many stories of people who've changed their fate, or, quote unquote fate, karmic fate, by cultivating. We can benefit our ancestors. Our ancestors, of course, in our bloodline, why are we born in this family? It's because we have some connection previously. Actually, we could be our own, like, grandfather, it's kind of weird, but yeah, because, we can be reborn many times in this family line. So we have no idea. But anyways, our ancestry, that they can benefit from our cultivation in this life. Okay, so they're deceased. Now we generally say, you have to receive the Tao to transcend the cycle of life and death. But if we receive the Tao and we cultivate, it reflects well on them too. It benefits them. So they don't necessarily have to receive the Tao themselves. They passed away, and they don't necessarily have to suffer if they're in the underworld. Okay, so at that point they can basically listen to the Dharma, the teachings. When we leave this world, if we cultivate it well, we go back to quote unquote heaven, or we transcend this life cycle, they also can transcend. Okay, so we're not just doing this for ourselves. Okay, so that's the next thing. Yeah, well, that's the saying. I don't know if it's exactly that, but transcend samsara. Okay, so obviously we can transcend this life cycle at least for a while. Okay, nothing is permanent unless we achieve Buddhahood. Okay, the ultimate goal. We still have to come back. One day. Maybe in another cycle. Okay, of the universe. But we have to come back. Even Buddhas, they come back, but they come back because of their vows. Okay, that they want to help people. They want to enlighten or guide sentient beings towards enlightenment to transcend the cycle as well. Yeah.
When Buddha came in back to human world, usually they make a big vow, so they can choose which family where they want to be born. They have a choice because they have big vow and they have enough virtues and merits. Normally, human being, a lot of human beings came down, they were married, but a lot of karma. So we didn't have choice which family we want to reborn. So sometimes they already decide which family we have to be reborn. Yeah. So that's a little different from human being and Buddha. Okay. But a lot of human beings, we are all Buddha angels reborn. Not just Buddha reborn as Buddha. Even human beings, a lot of them are Buddha reborn. Almost people are angel, Buddha reborn, come to this world, have a mission here. So don't underestimate ourselves. All of us could be Buddha reborn, angel reborn, have big mission and big vow to this human world to help others.
Yeah, just make sure that we realize that we know that we have that mission. Don't forget. If we forgot, then that's going to be a big trouble, and we can't go back. Okay, so all right. So the Tao really points us directly to our true self, that true nature, that Buddha nature. Okay, because that inside is that truth, that essence is inside. Okay, the practice of it, just like in religion, the practice is the function. That's mostly external. Okay, so really by receiving the Tao, so religions really kind of are mostly dealing with the external aspects of our lives, but the Tao is really looking within and finding that truth, realizing that truth within us. Okay, so that's getting to the essence. Okay, getting to the root. Right. Okay, so yeah, so receiving Tao is a blessing, right? We say receive the Tao blessing. It is truly a blessing to receive the Tao. You know, for one, the conditions have to be right for the person to receive the Tao, and once we receive the Tao, yes, although there are trials, there are tests, but we can overcome those karmic forces, those karmic debts. We can pay those off. Okay, so we won't. Yeah. So and it's also, of course, a blessing to not only to us but to our ancestors. That ultimately we can also transcend this life cycle. Ultimately, though, the Tao or the truth, the ultimate truth, is not in the words. Okay, it's in, you can say, our actions, our conduct, our behavior, our demeanor. Okay, that is where the Tao really is. We have to show it, to manifest it. Okay, so sometimes we tell, we can talk about the Tao, we can talk about the principles, we say, and person hears it and says, oh yeah, that's all very good. But then they see our conduct, our behavior doesn't match. And so then that puts them off. So it has to match, right? So everything that we learn about the Tao, about the principles, we have to manifest it ourselves. Once we manifest it, they say, right, a picture is worth 1,000 words or 10,000 words. I don't know, a million words. Okay, whatever. So our conduct is the same thing. It's worth more than the words that we can speak. Okay, because they see it in us, right? And then so we show kindness, mercy, but we also have to use our wisdom. Okay, use our wisdom in applying these principles and applying compassion, things like that. So don't just do things blindly, because something that may have been with good intent, done with good intentions, might end up not being good because we didn't use our wisdom in how do we apply that. Okay, and then lastly, we want to establish affinity through our good deeds, kindness, and mercy. Okay, so no matter what, we don't want to say, oh, okay, this person, doesn't believe, so this is a good-for-nothing person. Yeah, we still maintain a good relationship and show kindness, because again, ultimately, that is what will transform people. Okay, they feel it, and they're moved by us. Okay, ultimately, that is what's more important. So we can think of it as we're all farmers. We're all planting seeds. We're planting the good seeds everywhere. The people we meet, always planting good seeds. Okay, so we don't want to end up in a case where we have plant a bad seed, create some bad karma, bad feelings with people, and we end up in the next life having to kind of resolve that karma. Okay. Yeah, so that's not good. So that's basically the idea here. And any comments?
One thing I want to edit. I think the lecture Kai was talking about one lecture. Tai Jin was talking about one thing. For people to receive Tao, we have to make sure if the person has a birth defect, some kind of problem on their health when they were born, or some kind of situation, we want to make sure they are good people. In the meantime, their whole family need to receive Tao, because this is a special case because they have a birth defect. And we need their whole family, the person's whole family to receive Tao. And also, we want them to cultivate their whole family to cultivate. The reason because there's some kind of situation like that, because previous life they might owe somebody something. So this lifetime, we need all of us need to help the person. Sometimes we might transfer some merits to the person in order for the person to receive that. Even sometimes we take vows for the person too. So we need a lot of merit for the person to receive that in this case. Okay, this holy teacher said that.
Yeah. Again, that people's karma. We encounter cases where maybe initially they were willing to receive the Tao. They step into the temple and suddenly they have a headache or something seems like they can't go through with it. So that we can only say that that's karma that's preventing them from receiving the Tao. So even though they might satisfy some of the conditions, but that is still like you can say their foundation is insufficient. Okay, that they have to first resolve some of that karma first before they can just. So it's really it's kind of a matter of timing. A lot of times it's a matter of timing. So that's why even though someone may be in that situation, yeah, we don't give up. We kind of encourage them to perform good merits, things like that, that can help pay off some of their karmic debts. Okay, so make it easier. Or those people who maybe they don't believe right now, but again, we perhaps another person talks to them and they're willing. So that's also, again, that's more affinity. But we want to leave the door open for the future, right? We don't want to cut them off completely. Say, oh, okay, he's not willing, so forget about them. Again, plant that seed. Hopefully, one day it'll sprout. Okay, when the conditions are right. Again, these are all based on certain conditions having to be right. Okay, but of course, we are in a time period, the white period, where disasters are here. There are calamities. The Tao is only going to be available for a certain period of time. Before it's no longer, people can't receive the Tao. At least most people won't be able to have that chance. So that's why there's, you can say, a sense of urgency, urgency to try to spread the Tao as much as possible during this time while it's still available to everyone.
Sometimes to receive Tao looks so simple, only 30 minutes ceremony. But I remember I was in a ceremony one time. We have 12 people receiving the Tao. So the registration form was ready, everything was ready. We want to hold the person's on the surgery, show her how to do it. She said hi, pushed me hands away. She didn't want it. So we couldn't see her problem. I couldn't see it at all. But we even talked to her daughter, and even we tried back 2-3 times. Later on, she couldn't get it. She couldn't receive that. Later on, we find out she had already mental problems. So it looked like so simple, just receive Tao, transfer the treasury to her, but she couldn't get it because who blocked her from receiving Tao in this case?
Yeah, those karmic creditors.
Creditor, because she might owe somebody something in previous life. So this lifetime, the creditor do not want her to receive Tao. So they have
right. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to mention one. The merit fee is a token of our sincerity. Some people, they, when it comes to the merit fee, they're not willing. So again, they can't meet that condition, and so. But yeah, that's something that we need to kind of talk to them about too. But it's, if you think about it, people spend money on all sorts of things, but on this, they're not willing. It's like, salvation, what is it worth, to you? It's priceless, but, $10 can get you there. So, why not, right? So,
Even Kyle mentioned, right?
yeah, it's like an insurance policy,
insurance policy.
So,
I feel like that's going to give you eternity. It's such a good investment.
okay.
Okay.
You should actually also mention when you bring that person and they don't have money and you have to pay that $10 for that person, be certain that you give it back to you.
Yeah, because that is supposed to be their merit. So if they borrow the money or, whatever, if they don't pay it back, then it's no longer their merit. So they didn't really show it. All right. So, okay. So if I had said anything wrong, I asked the Buddhist for forgiveness and your corrections. All right, thank you.